was recording. But as I read through them, I kept seeing that almost all of you said that it's better to be respected than to be liked, and I thought that was interesting. That was interesting because especially in high school, being liked seems to be like a top priority for most students. And I'm not look, I ain't hating on you. I was exactly, I was yeah, I was probably much worse. That was like my goal for people to like me to be, you know, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it for people to like me. And I didn't respect myself. So how could others? But I just wanted people to like me. And so I would do things that were uncharacteristic of myself. And it's not until I got a little bit older that I realized that, dude, you're screwing up, man. You're screwing up. So I found this interesting. So the question I asked, because this is something that I don't know. I have an opinion on. But I think is again an interesting topic. So the whole idea of respect. So we hear different things like that you should just respect other people, that you should just freely give respect. But then there's also this idea that people should earn your respect, and so that's kind of, I guess, my question to you guys. And we'll use this as an example over the next several days. I just kind of wanted to get a bearing as to where you guys stood on this. So, should respect be given to others freely, or should respect be earned? Should respect be given to others freely, or should respect be earned? And right now, we've got 9 turned in, and it's 4-5. It's 4 given, 5 earned. We'll check back at that. We'll check back on that a little bit later and see if that's changed. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So we are going to go over more in depth of our notes yesterday, and then I have an assignment for you guys. Logic practice number 1, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I really do mean that. You're probably going to hear me say throughout the course of the semester, "Oh, this is a really fun assignment today." I'm going to say that over and over. We may not always agree, but I do think we'll agree on this one. Okay, so let's look at our notes from yesterday. Let's go ahead and do that again. If you have any questions, comments, please utilize the chat. I'll keep an eye on it. I like hearing from you guys, so don't feel like you're bothering me or anything like that. Like, we learn well through group communication. We, like human beings as a whole, we learn very well through group communication. So ask questions, comment. You know, let's try to make this as normal as a class as possible. Okay. So let's just go ahead and open this. I think I have this open in 3 different places now. Oh, great. All right, there we go. So what is logic? All right, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. We talked about the first 2 slides. I kind of rearranged this a little bit. We talked about the first 2 slides. We will kind of go through that again very briefly, and then we'll go over the rest of them, okay? So I asked you guys to write this down. If you have written them down, thank you very much. If you haven't, as long as you have them when you turn in your notebook quiz. So on Friday morning, I will assign your notebook quiz. It will be due Sunday night. Okay, it will be due Sunday night at 11:59. So you have all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. With that, I will ask you to take a picture of your notes, just so I know that you're doing them, and submit that with your notebook quiz as well. Okay, so right now it really doesn't matter when you get them written, just that you get them written and it's turned in, with your notebook quiz. Okay, I think it's a lot easier if you just kind of, are doing it every day versus doing it all like the last minute. But some people like doing that. Okay, so let's look at our notes together. Yesterday we talked about what logic is, and we said that logic, the philosophical branch of logic, is the study of reasoning. Now, study of reasoning. Our word, the English word logic, comes from the Greek word logos. And logos is a little bit more broad. It's more broad than I can really explain. So the Greek word logos it means word, it means reason, it means plan, it means order. And they were talking about the like universal reasoning, universal purpose, the universal plan, the universal order to things. Logos was like all encompassing. And so, the English word logic comes from logos more so in the idea of, again, like our logical abilities, our logical capacity is to reason with, with everything we come in contact with. That's what makes us different, humans. That's what makes us different than every other species, is that we have this ability to reason. We have this ability to reason. You know, humans make sacrifices, and I don't mean like, I'm not talking about like animal sacrifices or, God forbid, other human sacrifices. I'm talking about like you make your own personal sacrifices. You do things that you do not want to do because you know they are good for you. Other species do not do that. They do not do that. But we have this ability to reason and think beyond, just our instinctual nature. And so that is the type of logic that we are talking about. I shouldn't say the type of logic. That is logic. The logos is something much broader than that. And we could talk more about that on its own. But I mean, golly, you could spend a lot of time there. Aristotle declared that logic is the tool we use to come to know anything. That is, again, our reasoning ability. Our reasoning ability. That is to say that, again, if something is rational, if an argument is sound, if an argument is valid, then typically it is true. Now, there are fallacies that are used. There are exceptions. There are exceptions to every rule. But this gives us like a very good indicator of what we can know and what we can't know, our ability to use logic, our ability to reason. Einstein also talked about logic. He said logic can get you from point A to point B. Logic is very mechanical. It is a mechanical process. It is, again, if this, then that, therefore this. We're going to talk about that today in your notes. The examples we're going to use are just those type of arguments. If, then, therefore. It starts with the problem, ends with a solution. This is just like math. You have studied logic through math. You have used logic through math. And this is why math is this is why it is like that this is why it's important. I know what you're thinking. Dude, I hate math. Math sucks. Agreed. Agreed. I'm not a huge math person either. You know why? Because I'm probably not also a very logical person either. Those that are very logical thinkers do very well in math. Do very well in math. Those that are more, I'm trying to think of the opposite of logical. I don't want to say irrational or illogical, because that that kind of makes us think something else. Abstract thinkers. Intuitive thinkers. Let me ponder on that a little bit. But there are other tools in our arsenal, right? There are other tools in our arsenal. Logic is a very valuable tool, but it is not the only tool. Okay. We looked at yesterday ways to improve our own logical thinking, and we talked about some of those. We are going to do one of those today, which is why I believe that today's assignment is pretty fun. Okay. We're going to do a puzzle. We're going to do what is called a rebus puzzle, and we'll talk about what that is here in just a few minutes. Okay. All right. So how does logic work? Okay, this is very elementary. There are some specific vocabulary here, and this is one of the things that I slightly changed, as I highlighted a couple things and I added in this part right here. Okay, I added in this little bullet point right here. Arguments are either valid, invalid, and sound or unsound. That's what we're going to talk about more tomorrow. Okay, but I wanted to add that here just so we have that kind of in the back of our minds. Okay, so logic is a process for making a conclusion. That is the purpose of logic, is to make a conclusion, to get from point A to point B. Again, you use this in math when you are doing algebra. That is like essentially like the basis of logic. a question that I hear a lot is, uh, you know, students, they'll tell me about some issues they're having with school, and it's like they're having trouble with math. And why are they having trouble with math? Well, they don't see how it is applicable to the real world. Um, I totally feel you. I totally feel you because I felt the same way. Are you going to use the Pythagorean theorem every day of your life? No. Will you ever use it? Yeah, you might. You might. Depending on your like occupation, kind of what you do in your free time. But again, it's teaching you to be a logical thinker, and that is something that you're going to use. But like algebra, you're going to use that everywhere because everything's an equation. Every problem you have in your life is an equation that you are trying to solve for X. What do I need to do here? Now, this could be like, okay, this you could think about this in terms of like a goal. So say your goal is to go to UNC Chapel Hill, for example. I'm not saying I'm a fan, not a fan, just use that as an example because it's a hard school to get into, but it's also like you can do it. Like it's not like going to, well, you can go to Harvard. I don't know. You can go to Harvard if that's something you want to do. But that's a UNC Chapel Hill. That's probably a goal more people have around here. Anyways, getting off track. Anyways, say that's your goal. Okay. Well, you know that there are certain things that you need. Like you need good grades, but how good of grades? You need extracurricular activities, but what type of extracurricular activities? You need some type of like experience. Maybe that be job experience. Maybe that be like some type of travel where you've seen different things. Maybe that might be some type of volunteer experience, but you don't know. Again, you have variables there. How much of each thing do you need? You don't know. There's variables there. So you are solving this problem. The problem is, how can I get into this school? And again, you have to kind of solve this as an equation. Now, again, is that written the same way that you see math, algebraic equations in math? No. But it's teaching you to think in that way. The numbers are just there as symbols. Okay. If math would have been explained, I feel like if math would be explained like that a little bit more, I think we would understand it a little bit better. But um, I'm not faulting anybody. I'm not faulting anybody. But math is pretty important. All your subjects are pretty important. They teach you something different. All right. Anyways, so logic is a process for making a conclusion. The foundation of a logical argument is its proposition or its statement. Okay, the proposition or the statement. I'm going to show you that in our examples just in a few minutes. The proposition is either true or it's false. Okay, it's one or the other. And again, I'm going to show you some examples. Premises are the propositions used to construct the argument. So this is that if, then, therefore. So hold on. Let's finish this. And then an inference is made from the premises. So again, if, then, and then that therefore, you are basing off those first two premises. So if, then, therefore. Let's think about this in 3 steps. If, then, therefore. You put the if and the then together, you make an inference, and then you get the therefore, and that is the conclusion. Okay? Arguments are either valid, invalid, or sound, unsound. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. All right. So that kind of gives us like a brief outline, but again, we don't have an example just yet. So right now it's kind of floating out there. Don't worry, we're going to make this stick here in just a minute. But I do need you to understand there are 2 types of logical reasoning that we use. We use deductive reasoning, and we also use inductive reasoning. And so here's some examples I'm going to give you. All right, so let's look at what deductive reasoning is first. So deductive reasoning is a logical process that moves from generalized principles that are known to be true to a true and specific conclusion. I'm going to repeat that again, and we're going to slow it down a little bit. So a logical process, again, it gets you from point A to point B, that moves from a generalized principle that are known to be true. Let's look at our example right here. This is one of the more, popular examples. So all humans are mortal. All humans are mortal. Okay, what does mortal mean? Somebody drop in the chat what mortal means, or speak up, doesn't matter. we do need to understand what mortal means, because if all humans are this, then we need to know, right? And that's pretty important. Say that again, Nathan. There you go. There you go. Humans have, yeah, humans only have limited time. Humans are not immortal. Humans will die at some point in their life. Okay, so all humans are mortal. All. That is generalized. That is generalized. It doesn't get more generalized than all. All is encompassing. All encompassing. Very good. So all humans are mortal. So every single human. There has never been one human that is immortal, that cannot die, a pure human being that is immortal. Okay, there we go. So all humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. Okay, so we have generalized principle. This is our first premise. We have our second premise, which is more specific. So now we're not talking about, we started with all humans. Now we're talking about a specific human. So we go from generalized to specific. All humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. Therefore, so this is our conclusion. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Now, do we agree? Now, I know you don't know much about Socrates, but I will tell you this: Socrates is not still with us. So, do we agree that would we say that this argument is true or false? What do you guys think? There you go. It's a true statement. It's a true statement. All humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. So, um, again, right now we're just focusing on how does this argument sound as a whole. We just want to look at how does this argument sound as a whole. Tomorrow we will go into the sound, unsound, valid, invalid. But just based off of just what you already know, about what makes sense and what makes sense and what doesn't. I get what makes sense and what do not make sense. There we go. Just based off just what you know right now. So I'm not asking you to do anything too extreme just yet. We're going to work through this slowly, okay? So that is deductive reasoning. Generalized principle to specific conclusion. All humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. So since all humans are mortal, and Socrates is a human, therefore Socrates is mortal. Okay. Inductive reasoning. This is the logical process that moves from specific instances into a generalized conclusion. So, where we started with all, now we're starting somewhere else. We're starting with a specific. So, here's our example: Socrates is a human. Socrates is a human. Since Socrates is not immortal, again, since Socrates is dead, since Socrates has died, all humans must be mortal. Now, again, we assume, just by looking at this, what makes sense to us, this is a true statement. It is a true statement, but there is more room for error with inductive reasoning. There is more room for error, and we'll look at why that is here in just a minute, okay? But all these things are true. All these things are true. Socrates is a human. Socrates is not immortal. And the last part being all humans must be mortal. But you can see there right here with inductive reasoning, this conclusion is a generalized conclusion. Must. That's an assumption. That's an assumption. That is not as concrete, which is why these are known by two different names. Deductive reasoning is known as formal logic. Formal logic. And so, well, if this is formal logic, then we can safely say that inductive reasoning is informal logic. Okay, so let's look at another example. So, formal logic example again, this is deductive reasoning. So, premise number one: all bicycles have two wheels. Do we agree that that's true? Let's see. Oh, whoops. How do we know Socrates is human? Good question. Good question. All right. Thank you, Nathan. Good question, Peyton. We'll talk more about that. All right. So all bicycles have two wheels. Yes, this is a true statement. You know why it's a true statement? Because it says bi. Bi means dos, duo, two. How you say it? Duh. That's how you say it in French. Duh. I took French in college because I failed Spanish in high school. All right. All bicycles have two wheels. Jerry, I don't know who Jerry is. Let's assume Jerry's this guy. Jerry is riding on a bicycle. So that is premise number 2. So again, all bicycles have two wheels. True. Jerry is riding on a bicycle. We assume that's true. If this is Jerry, then yes, Jerry is riding on a bicycle. The conclusion, Jerry is riding on two wheels. Okay. So we're going to take a brief look at validity right here. In this example, we can easily determine its validity. Do bicycles have two wheels? Yes. Premise number 1 is true. Is Jerry riding a bicycle? This is Jerry? Yes. Premise 2 is true. If both premises are true and the conclusion follows the premises, then the conclusion must be true as well. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, and you can tell me, that's fine. I get it. You're probably thinking, this seems unnecessary. We already know this. We don't have to name all these different parts of an argument to understand if it's true or not. Well, not in cases like this. In cases like this, yeah, this seems uh, unnecessary. But how many arguments or how many debates, quote unquote, do you get in where people have very different opinions of what is true? Well, depending on the depth of the two people arguing and the topic, things can get rather things can kind of get out of hand. Things can get out there. Because right here, this is as simple as it gets. But we have to start very simple before we can even begin to try and make better arguments going forward. Because here's the thing, like if you're thinking right now, like again, like when am I ever going to use this? You're going to use this everywhere. Here's the thing, you need, and don't think I don't mean this in a manipulative way. That's the exact opposite of what I mean. But you need to be able to persuade people. You need to be able to persuade people to see your side. Whether or not you persuade them to take action, you do need to be able to, make good, strong, logical arguments to get people to see what you see. Because sometimes we all have blind spots. I mean, dude, that's one thing that you learn like before in driver's ed that I think applies to our lives, like our actual human lives, very well. We all have blind spots. When you are driving, you have a blind spot that you cannot see, with mirrors, that you cannot see at all. Everyone has blind spots. And so you have to be able to construct logical arguments to help others. Maybe you're showing them part of their blind spot that they don't see. But how else can you use this in your life? Well, I mean, if you want a job, I mean, you are competing with other people. You need to be able to logically explain to your employer why they should hire you instead of someone else. What do you bring to the table that other people do not? Dudes, guys, if you want to get married, dude, you've got to not only convince a woman to marry you, you have to convince her family to let her marry you. That may be a little bit more traditionalist, but that's how it's been for a long time. So golly, I mean, yeah, you better start making some rational arguments. You better start working on that formal logic. All right, let's look at our second example. Okay. Informal logic. So this is inductive reasoning. And we talked about how, again, it goes from specific to generalized. Okay. So premise number 1, the first coin I pulled out of the bag was a penny. Okay. The first coin I pulled out of the bag is a penny. Let's assume this is, I don't think I have any pennies. Do I have any pennies? No, I don't. don't think so. Oh yeah, I do. Hey, all right. So we're gonna make this. We're gonna make sure that our premises are true. So, all right. So let's say right here. Okay. All right. Let's see. I can't see myself because I don't even know if I'm. There we go. All right. So I've got this hat. So we're gonna pretend this hat's a bag because I don't have a bag. All right. So the first coin I pull out. First, I'm breaking stuff. First coin I pull out is a penny. Okay. Can you? Yeah, you can. I'll show you Abe. All right, you see, yeah, Abraham Lincoln. That's who's on a penny, by the way. All right, so that is our first premise. The first coin I put out of the bag was a penny. All right, that is true. First one I pulled out is a penny. All right, so the second premise is the second and third coins I pulled out of the bag were pennies. So let's see what happens. Nope. Penny. And third one, penny. All right. So what is our conclusion? Our conclusion says all coins in the bag must be pennies. Now, does this have to be true? Is this I mean, you really cannot know that based off that information, which is why this is again known as inductive reasoning. Now, is it true? Yeah, it is true because all I've got is pennies here. But if there were, here's the thing: the problem with informal logic, because the conclusion is generalized, it leaves a lot of room for error. Because guess what? I could have a bag full of 2,000 pennies. I could have a bag full of 2,000 pennies. But let's say that I have there's 2,001 coins, and one of those coins is not a penny. Well, all does not leave room for error. All does not leave any room for error. All means all. Every single one of them is a penny. So again, can informal logic be good? Yes, it can, because it's based on experience, and experience can be helpful, but it can also be hurtful because with informal logic, with inductive reasoning, we go from a specific to a generalized conclusion. While with deductive reasoning, we go from a generalized, an all, to a specific. Okay? And just flipping those, again, not every argument using deductive reasoning is true, because it can be false. But there's much less room for error with deductive reasoning versus inductive reasoning. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. Like I need to hear some yeses, some nos from everybody. So if that makes sense, let me know. Yes. Okay, good. If it doesn't, feel free to speak up. Because that means we can go through it again. All right, very good. That makes sense. All right, good deal. All right, thank you. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop with logic today, okay? Because I know that's all, that's all great. I know that is this is helpful information, but again, we can kind of get tied down, and this kind of gets this can get boring very quickly. Not everybody likes learning about good and bad arguments as much as I do. So I've got something a little bit more fun for you today, okay? An assignment that I think you'll have a good time with. I always do. And that is logic practice number 1. So we do use, while we do use formal and informal logic, again, deductive and inductive reasoning all the time, we don't always do so as we just went over in our notes. We don't necessarily do it that way, but we do still use those types of reasoning and that type of logic all the time. So let's look at logic practice number 1. Logic practice number 1 is rebus puzzles, okay? So here's what we've got. Attached, you will see what are called rebus puzzles. We're going to measure your degree of logical thinking in today's class. Have fun with it, and if you struggle, ask your parents to help you. If there's anything you can't figure out, ask your friends, ask your brother, sister, ask grandma, grandpa, ask friend. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you need help. To submit the rebus puzzles, simply compile a Google Doc numbered 1 to 15 with your answers and submit it to me via Google Classroom. So you may have seen these before. We will do one of these together just so you kind of get the idea. Okay. So these are, I've heard them called different things. They've been called rebus puzzles. They've been called, I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Rebus puzzles, pictograms, word riddles. I've heard it called that before. I don't know about, I don't think that's not it. Or picture riddles. I don't know. All right. So there are 15 of them. They're, 3 columns, 5 rows. Okay. And they all are, they're all conveying a simple phrase that you've heard. These are all phrases that you've heard that you understand. Okay, but they are written in a way that you have to kind of logically put these together. You have to again use some of that logic we've been talking about. Okay, so you have to think critically here. Okay, so let's look at the first one together. Okay. Let's look at the first one together. All right. So first one, we see that don't worry here about like the color of the square. This is more so just to keep it. I don't know. I didn't make this, but don't worry about the color of the square. All right. So looking at the first one. Okay. And again, these are pretty simple. Pretty simple. But what might the first one mean? Don't give answers to all of them, but if you know what number 1 is, give us the answer in the chat. Who can figure out number 1? Who can figure out number 1? Very good, Ember. Very good. One thing after another. Again, this is a common phrase. Common phrase. And here's how we put that together. So we look at these words in relation to each other. So both, we have 2 words, another and one thing. Okay. Where is one thing in relation of another? It is after it. So how do we construct this phrase? What phrase do we know? Have we heard that makes sense here? Again, one thing after another. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at one more. Let's look at one more and do it together. I'm gonna pick another. We'll pick kind of another easy one because I want to make sure you guys have a little bit of challenge. Let's look at number 5 together. Okay, let's look at number 5. So number 5, we have. I don't want to say anything. I'm gonna let you figure it out. So number 5. Somebody, if you know the answer to number 5, go ahead and write that in the chat. Very good, Maddie. Very good, Adela. 1 in a million. 1 in a million. So here, again, we have the word that looks like million, but there is a 1 inside of it, replacing one of the I's. 1 is in a million. Again, 1 in a million. Very good, very good. Okay, so this is going to be you guys' assignment. I made this due tomorrow. I'm giving you guys a little bit, kind of trying to give you guys a little bit of latitude over these, over these first 2 weeks with due dates. I want to get to the point where I sign something, early in the morning and then, can have it due that night. But I'm also trying to work with you because I know that you probably got a lot right now until you get into that groove. With all of your classes, it may be difficult. So this is due tomorrow night. It's due tomorrow night. Tomorrow we will have some more notes on validity and soundness, and we're going to continue working on those arguments a little bit. But we're also going to continue doing fun little exercises like this as well. So knock this out for me. Again, all you need to do is just like create a Google Doc, just number 115, and give me your answers. We'll go over these tomorrow. Okay. We'll go over these on what's today? Today's Wednesday. Dang, when will we go over these? I might just put up a video on Friday for you, and you can kind of self check them. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any questions before you guys go? I finished it already. Very good, Maddie. Very good. I saw that you turned it in. It's awesome. Guys, if you guys ain't got any questions, you are free to go. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I enjoyed today's class, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Let me